Football then and now, a fun look at football nostalgia and the modern game intertwined. Join us.
Hello, and welcome to this week's Football Then and Now with myself, Chris, as you all know, and a reoccurring friend who might as well just be a part of the show now, Braids? I just said your name anyway, but yeah, Brady. So,
how are we doing?
You know me, racking my head round the fixtures today and just trying to work out, is it actually as good as is it as bad as I thought it was going to be? And I looked at a stat of all the teams this season, and it had 90% being ish hard, then obviously 99 being extremely hard, and had Everton at 96.7. Now, I don't seem to think we're in a realm of it's too difficult, because obviously if I've got more hope in David Moyes being in a new football ground, a fresh start all round, that, I'm not saying that, come out the traps flying, but, I feel that, it's a bit kinder. We always seem to play you the third or fourth game of the bloody season anyway. So that's, I think we're at home for that one this time round, though, aren't we? Or I thought we go. Yeah,
I think it's your place first game, then second game at ours. Yeah,
and then obviously Liverpool at the end of September. I was surprised that we got Leeds away. Normally we don't know. I haven't seen us play a promoted side in a while, and obviously being at Ellen Road, you know what Ellen Road can get like, and they can really get behind behind Leeds. So it's not going to be an easy walk, that game either way. But
no, I think the same with Burnley as well, to be honest.
Well, yeah.
I think all the teams that came out, they're going to give tough games. I think all the teams that came up, if they spend right, a lot of them didn't lose a lot of players when they went down. So I think it'll be closer this season than it was last season for the promoted teams.
Well, I'm going to pull up. No, actually, no. Before I pull up both the first week's fixtures, go through what you felt when you saw Villa's. We had a bit of a little. Well, I was laughing at you, really, wasn't I? But you messaged me after the fixtures got released this morning. So yeah, now we're face to face, kind of face to face. Come on, give me your true feelings.
I mean, nobody's going to be easy ones. I mean, we've got Newcastle first game of the bloody season again.
Yeah,
but look what happened last time. We lost 5-1 and ended up making it into the Champions League. So you never know. But looking at it, there's probably, I'd say, on paper, 5 winnable games out of the first 8.
5 winnable games. So
yeah,
give me a second and let me pull up yours. Obviously on my phone, because I can't be asked touching my computer. Okay. So, you got some of these interesting friendlies, haven't you, coming up as well?
Yeah, we play Roma as well.
Have you? Do you? Oh, yeah, but we're like, brothers and sisters now, aren't we? It's
been announced they're going to be your first full capacity game at the new stadium.
Right. And you're playing Roma late, your last friendly as well, so that's a bit. Obviously, they must be doing the rounds in Europe. They're in Europe and the UK this year. So here you go. Got your first 6. So as you said, you got Newcastle at home, and as you say, you've played them already last season in the first game of the season. But obviously, you were at St James's Park at that point.
Yep.
So obviously, it could be different. Then Brentford away, and we obviously don't know how Brentford going to. Lost Thomas Frank. They look like they're losing Wissett and then Mbomo.
Yeah.
So we don't know.
And possibly Damsgaard.
So there you go then. So we don't know.
We'll get on to that later.
Yes, definitely. And then you've got Crystal Palace at home. on the 30th of August. So obviously the last game before the transfer deadline. And then obviously you've got us, the first game back after the transfer deadline at Bramley Moor, because I'm not calling it that other one. And then you've got Sunderland away on the 20th. You've got Fulham then as your sixth opponent for your first 6 games at home. And you're not, well, actually, no, it gets pretty rough after that, mate. I'm just going to quickly go into your Octobers because you're running 3 games here, Braids, is quite rough. Tottenham away, and, depending on now how Tottenham do in the summer, because it's great getting Thomas Frank in. I like Thomas Frank. I think you'll do a good job at Spurs, but it's all about who they can get in. I know they've got Towers now officially signed, but we will have to wait to see on that one. And then you're at home at Man City, and I imagine the way that Man City have been buying players this summer so far, even before we've now got to the window that's now officially open, obviously only in the UK. They've made some decent signings as well. And then you've got Liverpool away on the 1st of November. So 3 games, and we're used to that anyway, but you've got some, I'd say, defining games, I suppose, where I think you can figure out then out of those 3 games where you as a team are going to be towards maybe the end of the season.
Yeah. I mean, I looked at those, I was like, really? Could they do us any dirtier? And then you look at the end of the season, and it's like the last 2's Spurs and City. Liverpool and City, I think it is, actually. Spurs, Liverpool, City are the last 3. I'm
Villa, Tottenham, Burnley, Aston Villa, Liverpool, City, Villa, your last game of the season.
Yeah, so we need top 4 done and dusted way before that.
If you go for top 4, and I imagine you will do, yeah, you're gonna really have to get it done pretty early. Especially with imagine City, Liverpool are going to be obviously right up there. Tottenham obviously want to bounce back.
Yeah,
Burnley is a strange one, but I'd expect you to beat them. Fulham away before it all goes, mate. I think that's going to be a toughie. Then you got Sunderland, Forest, West Ham, Man United on the 14th of March, Chelsea and Man United together there, mate. On the 4th of March, you've got Chelsea. Then on the 14th of March, you've got United away. So you've got some tasty games, I'd say, throughout the season, and you've got them bunched up as well. And it's never good, and it's never fun to have those sort of games bunched up. We've had usually December is where we get a few of the top 4 bunched up together. We don't seem to do too bad, considering all things, especially with the way we've been playing the last couple of years. And we've managed to pull through a few games of them. I think you'll do well. Obviously, at the same time, we're still early days, so we don't know what players Villa are going to bring in. I'm sure you've got ideas, but we'll speak about that a bit later on. I mean, it's depending. I think if you get some signings that signings that Emre needs and Villa needs, and they are big signings, because I can't imagine him doing anything smaller now, because one day he'll want to get back into the Champions League. I mean, if you can get some good big wow signings in, I don't worry for you at all.
It all stems to PSR. Our old little friend PSR.
Yeah.
But apparently Villa have found a loophole.
You shouldn't have to. You sold Duran for what, 80 million? Well, got up to 80 million in January. So again, it's
that offset the majority of it. That's why we've got minus 15 million to spend. But they found a loophole, which they've took the blueprint from Chelsea.
Well, you sold something that the club owns, then, yeah?
Yes, they've sold the women's football team.
Oh, okay. And you haven't got a bad...
Or they're in the process of selling it to the same group that own the senior men's team for £120 million.
So
loophole.
Hey, if you can get away with it and do what Chelsea have done, then why not? Why not?
Yeah, if they want to keep going for these teams, they're going to find loopholes. Chelsea have exploited it perfectly.
Well,
And there's
it's not just
nothing.
Chelsea.
Yeah, but there's nothing they can do about it.
No. Well,
So if
not to
that's
the
what clubs
extent.
have got to do, that's what clubs have got to do.
Well, we did it last season, didn't we, amongst ourselves? And then Forest and Newcastle did it amongst themselves.
Yeah.
And Chelsea obviously got a few out and out the door as well. And they're obviously kicking off about that, weren't they? That we were, loopholing it there. But there's nothing in the rule book saying you can't sell to each other. And,
Yeah.
who's to say that we were doing it for PSR reasons? We obviously were, but at the end of the day, it was for what it was. And we overpaid for players that, you wouldn't normally pay 10 million for one of ours. And I liked him, so I imagine he's probably around the 7 million mark anyway. But
Yeah.
Lewis
I mean,
Robin,
we sold one of our young lads to Chelsea, Callum, for 19 million.
yes, you did.
He'd only played a handful of senior games. I mean, yeah, he was a good prospect, but 19 million for an 18-year-old?
Well, it's probably less money these days for most 19-year-olds to get, sold on in this day and age.
This is what clubs have got to do. I mean,
I know it's frustrating, and I mean we've seen and felt it the worst out of everyone.
Yeah.
But I said in your chat with Stu last week, I think we're over that point now. There's only little bits of things that need loose end tying up, and I think Everton walk away harm free from PSR. I don't think there's anything stupid the Freaking group are doing. I don't think mistakes will be made from the Shiri's era. I think this is now we move on to Bramley Dock. We make more money. We get more people in the ground. We do events. We just keep the income flowing. There's something going constantly, and then you still got obviously Goodison Park, so you can still make your money with the tours there. Whether or not that stays the same for a foreseeable future, because I can't imagine paying for two Premier League grounds, for a long substance.
Well, I don't know, because you've got the women's team going in there now, haven't you? They're going to be playing their home games
going in there as well.
Yeah, the under-21s, and from what I was reading the other week, you're going to be doing like the youth tournaments and everything there as well for the community, and so there's a lot of prospect at Goodison Park. So even if you're doing stuff at Bromley Dock, you still got Goodison to fall back on, which still is part of Everton, which still makes a revenue for you.
Not much.
So you've got the two stadiums, but you've got income coming from both stadiums.
Yeah, but you're still paying out for two Premier League grounds, and it's it's one of them. Bye, and on that, we'll move back to what we were talking about here, which is the main topic of today. These are the opening weekend fixtures, and obviously we discussed Villa and Newcastle. We've discussed Leeds and Everton. Well, touched upon them. I don't think we need to go into too much about ours, because I feel like you play Newcastle, as you said, the second time for the opening game of the season. Obviously, it's just a switch around in grounds, and obviously we know what to expect with Leeds. It's going to be a ruthless game. I don't like it's on a Monday night. I hate Monday night games. I don't think there should be any Monday night games personally. I think all games should be played on the weekend. But that is what it is until we can get Sky out of the Premier League contract, and we can go and get a Netflix style Premier League where all games are in one spot and you just pay for your team,
which apparently is being looked at by the Premier League.
Well, it needs to be moved on
by
now.
the FA as well, because reports I've been reading, they're looking at introducing that into. So you'd have the Premiership games, you'd have FA Cup, and the Carling Cup, or whatever it's called these days, because it changes every 5. Yeah, changes every 5 minutes. But yeah, they're talking about putting the domestic cup games into it as well. So there's talk about them doing it, which I think would make them a hell of a lot more money
Mm.
because it would be worldwide. And you get rid of all these pirate ones. Because if you're charging, say, £10 a month, but you can click on all of our, you see Everton's playing, click on it, you got the full game. Villa's
Yeah.
playing, click on it, you got all the Villa games. Doesn't matter what time they're kicking off, what day they're kicking off. You can watch it on your phone, tablet, TV, whatever.
Hmm.
People around the world are going to have more access to it than they do at the moment with Sky and with some of these other companies that are showing the games.
Well, I think it's just Sky and BT Sport, not TNT Sports now. I think Amazon have.
Yeah.
I think they've let go of the Premier League, but went for the Champions League, didn't they? I think
Yeah.
they've got a Champions League and Europa League games this season.
Yeah.
So I think Sky obviously got majority. Yeah, and I think that leaves TNT Sports. But
I mean,
yeah,
you look at
it needs to be all in one
you look
place.
at you look at what WWE did going on to Netflix. Netflix's profit went through the roof because more people signed up to Netflix.
Mhm.
They've had some of the highest views they've ever had because it's more accessible than the networks it was on before. So if you did the same with the Premiership and with the FA Cup and with the Carabao Cup, then you're going to have Bob, who lives in a little hut in the middle of Africa, who's got access to internet, can watch it on his phone.
Yeah. No, that's not me
But,
ripping from Bob in Africa. No, it makes sense, and it should all be in one place. Because, and I understand why people have gone on to, Fire Sticks and pay for, for certain things. I'm not going to say myself, but you know where I'm going with it.
yeah,
Because we're getting ripped off. And you look at people when they get the Fire Stick and they get all the channels, they're paying roughly what, 50 quid for the year, and that's for the year, and that's every channel. And I'm not asked about having every channel. I'm a sports person. I want to watch my football, and I find it frustrating that the likes of America, they get every game, they get free kickoffs, and we need to change that. Also, that's another conversation for another day. But we need to get rid of this blackout at 3 p.m. because it's so old. It doesn't need to be there anymore. If we're gonna, we just need a place, as you said, where it's all accessible in one place, where each fan from each club can just go, right, that's £10 a month to watch Villa, or £10 a month to watch Man United, Man City, Liverpool, etc. And that's what you do. Or you can pay more to have them all.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? It's giving people, the option. And
Yeah.
and they would make more money doing that than they would with the Sky subscriptions, the TNT, the Amazon. They just would.
Well, I mean,
And
you look at Sky Sports now, they've let go, what is it, another 17 of their presenters and commentators?
yeah.
And you look at TalkSport, and the majority of their big ones that they had, so Jeff Sterling and a lot of the others, they've gone on to there, and I think it was the Christmas transfers. On the last day, they did their own transfer special with Jeff Sterling did Champions League and things, so they did like a Gillette soccer style thing.
Yeah.
They had all the results and everything going on there, and that's free for people.
Yeah,
And they're all. I've been reading in the papers and that a lot of them that have left Sky Sports have already been or are looking to be taken on, or TalkSport are looking to take them on because they're doing it as free because they all want people to be able to see the 3 o'clock kickoffs, hear about all the games, talk properly, and not be harnessed in what they can say.
Well,
if they want to slate a team for how they play, they can do it freely. Where Sky Sports, oh, you can't say that about that team. You're not allowed to say that about that person. You can't say it about that team.
It's the Sky 6, the Sky 7, and it's lauded towards them and everybody else who are below. You know what I mean? Do not really get a look in. They are looked after far too much. But again, we're digressing to things that we really don't need to talk about. Let's go back to the match week 1. I've got Lewis here. He's jumped in to say hello. Right, Lewis, I hope you're okay, mate. And he's got a question for me. Who have Everton got first home game?
Oh.
We do have. Give me a second.
It's Sunderland.
No, it might possibly be. Hold on. I did have written down. It's Brighton at home. So we're playing Brighton. They beat us 3-0 last time. So, but that was a Goodison, and that's the past now. We've moved on from that. I want to sort of go to you now, and we'll break down very quickly what we feel for the clubs, apart from Everton, and we'll leave Everton and Villa's game to last, right? So we'll go to Friday, the champions, Liverpool, Bournemouth, right? So just say everyone's got the sign.
Liverpool.
Yeah, okay. Well, let's say they've got the signings in. Everyone's got.
Because the signings that Liverpool have already brought in and the players that they've already got, I can't see past Liverpool.
And I don't think they're finished in the market. Kirkes is another one that's been bouncing around.
Well, apparently he's already nailed on to go.
I've heard bits and bobs of it, and so certain people like Ornstein or maybe on Twitter sort of says something. Or Paul Joyce is usually on the money for Liverpool, but I feel like Kirkes will go there. But you know.
Kirkes will go there. Andy Robertson will go to Atletico Madrid.
You're thinking Robbo's going to go here?
Yeah.
Interesting. We'll talk about.
I just think Slot is looking to the future now, because you look at the age of the players that he's brought in so far, and I think he's looked at that back line and he's thought, right, Trent didn't want to stay. We need a replacement. Go out and get one.
We got Frimpong.
Andy Robertson. Yeah, Andy Robertson. Fantastic servant for him. Never complained about anything. Always, probably one of the best signings I remember in the Premiership for one team, for how much they paid for him and how much they got out of him.
Well, from Hull, yeah, and you know, I think a lot of teams were looking at Andy Robbo when he was at Hull, you know, because obviously it was a season that got relegated, and they bought him obviously when Hull went down, and I couldn't tell you. Well, I could tell you now. He didn't look like anywhere near the player he has been for Liverpool, and you've got to give kudos to.
And I think a lot of it was down to Jurgen Klopp and his management,
his coaching team as well. But no, I do agree. You know, what I mean, I don't know whether they'll let Robbo go yet, just because of the experience. But you can tell it obviously.
I don't know. I think they will, because because Van Dijk's staying, signing a new contract. I think they'll get maybe another central defender. I think if Kirkes comes in, that's Robinson gone.
Possibly, you can swap them in and out. I mean, if you give Robbo that last season, maybe so, and then give time for Kirkes to bed in at Liverpool. Obviously, not necessarily bed in for the Premier League, because he played obviously for Bournemouth, who were there playing on Friday night on the 15th of August. But give him time to bed in the Liverpool way, and you could have Robbo and him interchange. You could, at the end of the day, we're right at the beginning of the market, and you got to look at the players that have already come. But again, we're digressing to transfers, and we're not even at that point of the show yet. Right. So you go Liverpool, Bournemouth. Obviously, it's not a hard one to predict. You would like something to sort of jump out the ordinary for Bournemouth, because they have become such a good team over the last couple of seasons. Managed well. They bought some good players in, and they bought another French player in the last couple of days, who's very good as well. So that connection they have in Liverpool, in France with. I can't remember what the chairman owns another team. I think it's not Toulouse. I can't remember what team the chairman owns as well in France. So they've got a good sort of scouting system between like the team he owns and obviously with Bournemouth scouts themselves. So you know what I mean, they're passing on information. But you know what I mean, again, I think Bournemouth will have a steady season. I don't know if it will go as well as last season. I think a lot of teams had a really poor season last season, so it might be different again. So I'll jump past your.
Yeah, I mean they've lost some of their players. They were their top performers last year, and there's a couple more that could be going. So
Yeah, possibly.
I think that comes down to the transfer window as well.
Yeah, no, I do agree. If they keep Cliver, because Cliver's, it's all remnants of the way, well, not as clinical as Patrick was. And I love Patrick back in the day when he played for Barca. One of those players that I love to watch. But he was very good last season. His assists, his goals, and I know he scored a lot of penalties. And, people will say, well, it's just a penalty. He hasn't, let's put it straight here. Yeah, exactly. And penalties aren't always the most easiest goals to score with the pressure.
No.
And you know what I mean? I like Cliver. He's really come on. But we'll see where he goes. We'll move on from that team. So we'll go Liverpool win for that one. We'll come back to yours towards the end. Brighton, Fulham. And this.
I'd probably say a draw.
Okay, a draw.
Yeah, I'd probably say first draw of the season. That one.
It's possible. Right, we'll move to Forest and Brentford. Again, we talk. Yeah, at the moment it's up in the air with Brentford because we don't know.
What's going on. I think who they're going to bring in as manager and what players they're going to keep and what players are going to go. I just think Brighton are probably going to struggle next season. Brentford are going to probably struggle next season.
Brighton probably got good money. They've got enough good players to keep them going.
Well, you never know.
I
think Brentford are going to struggle next season.
It's a hard one. I feel.
I mean, if they keep the same template that Thomas Frank had, and they bring a manager in who plays the same sort of style, and they can keep hold of a lot of their players and bring some more in to replace the ones they've already lost, then they've got a chance of pushing for Europe. But I just can't see it.
It's a hard one to replace, and you'll know as well as I do. To replace Mbumo, I say if Vista does go as well, and they're their two main goal scorers, and they have been even when Ivan Toney was there, and when he was suspended, they took the reins and they've never let go of those reins. They have been terrific. I mean, they lost Ivan Toney and they've not looked back. Them two have been absolutely standouts for Brentford. And if they do lose both of them, it is a tall order to find someone or two people, in fact, that will get you goals without having to pay quite a bit of money, unless you can find a diamond in the rough like Brighton do. But again, it's very difficult, very, very difficult. I hear, I'm not 100% sure on the rumour, but I hear that it is the Ipswich manager they're going for to replace Thomas Frank.
That's going to cost some money to get him out of that, because didn't he sign a new contract at the start of last season?
Yeah, that contract could have a release clause in it, knowing that they could go down.
Yeah, but
it'd be a good shout for Bradford.
I don't know if he'd want to. I don't know if he'd want to walk away, because he was touted to be United's next manager, wasn't he? And he turned that down apparently, and Tottenham, and refused that because he wanted to concentrate on Ipswich. I mean, it could be a good placement for him. I mean, he sort of plays the same sort of style as what Thomas Frank did, so it's not a massive change. There's certain things in his game that he does do different, like he has more of a target man that Liam Delap provided when he
Yeah.
was there, and I think he might be a good
I
fit.
think he'd be a good fit for Brent. If what I've read is correct, I think he would be a good fit. You don't forget, right?
but
Calvert-Lewin will be free in a couple of more weeks because I don't feel like we're keeping him. And I think if anyone can get hold of Calvert-Lewin in the Premier League, he'd be a great target man for them.
yeah, I mean, Jamie Vardy said he wants to stay in the Premiership, and apparently there's a couple of teams sniffing round him as
Too
well.
old.
So yeah, but he's still got some of the legs, and he can get you
He'd
a
have to come
goal.
off the bench.
So
He'd
maybe,
have to come off the bench.
yeah, maybe somebody like a Brentford or a Burnley or somebody like that might take a punt on him, just to have him
Or
come off the
get him
bench.
to go to Wrexham. They're going to need some solid players this season. Anyway, so you're going to go Forest Brentford, and I think I'll probably agree with that at the moment. I want to see how it all sort of goes together this summer for Brentford. Let's just see if they get who they want in manager-wise, and it's their first choice.
Yeah, I think they need to get the manager in like in the next couple of weeks
I'd say
to
so.
get the signings in that they want and get the blueprint set down that they want the performances to be. And
Yeah.
but
It's a hard one. We'll just see how it evolves throughout the summer, isn't it, with Brentford? We'll go
yeah,
next one. The returning Sunderland, and hats off to them because they were.
oh, they
Well,
snuck
yeah,
it.
in the playoffs
I
they snuck
watched
it,
their
yes,
game.
but I'm thinking more of the bigger
Yeah,
picture here, Brady. Is they got relegated.
yeah. Through the whole season, they were very good through the season. From what I seen of the Championship games, they played very well, and they quietly sort of went about doing their business and snuck into the playoffs, and then managed to sneak their way through the playoffs into the playoff
and did
final,
the same again.
and then nicked it off Sheffield United, who, when I was watching that game, Sheffield United they looked like they were getting run ragged because it looked like Sunderland wanted it more than they did. So I hope Sunderland bring that attitude into the Premiership. Obviously, they're going to have to spend however much they've got to spend is a different story, but I think they're going to be. I don't want to see them be a whipping boy. I don't want to see any of the promoted teams be a whipping boy
It's a
this season.
difficult one not to say that that's going to happen, though, isn't it?
Yeah, but I think if they can get it teams like they did in the Championship, because nobody expected them to do it.
No, and I probably
Nobody
agree with you
expected
there.
them to be there. And going to their first game against West Ham, I just think West Ham are going to be too strong for them. Even though it's their first game back in the Premiership at home, I just think West Ham are going to spend on the players that Graham Potter wants. I think he's got rid of, or he's looking to get rid of a few players that he doesn't want, that don't fit his style of play. So I think West Ham might just have that little bit too much for him.
Yeah, I miss the old days, Braids, when the teams used to come up from the Championship in that first day, and they've just caused so many chaos, or so much chaos, even, sorry. And you would see more than one game that would go to a newly promoted team. But, the Premier League
Yeah.
and the Championship, there's such a divide between it now. In a gulf of, you've seen it the last couple of seasons where teams have gone up and they've gone straight back down. And teams who have gone straight back down, I'm talking Leicester, Southampton, mainstays of the Premier League for so long. Leicester have won it. They won the FA Cup. And now, obviously, they're in massive trouble with PSR, but worse because in the Championship, they don't take no prisoner.
I mean, look at Luton. Luton came up, went down, and then went down again.
Yeah, well,
They got the parachute payments, but they dropped in the space of coming out of the Premiership back into the Championship. They're now
yeah, but
League
I
One.
was going to say now, Sunderland did the same, and look where they are now.
Yeah.
It's just a matter of a rebuild, getting the
Yeah.
right players in, the right manager, right tactically, and and have faith.
I mean, Villa had to do it in the Championship. We had to rebuild basically a whole new team.
Yeah, well, and you almost went. Well, you should have gone down when you came back up as well. Actually, VAR helped you that day. No, actually, yeah, it was. Yeah, well, that doesn't matter.
Greatest save ever. Best
Yeah, if you
save
say
ever.
so, if you say so. But they're all. Sunderland would be the prime example if you're talking about Luton. Of going down. Well, Man City as well, actually. Many people might not know this because they're too used to the riches of Man City in the last, 5.
Man City went all the way down to League Two, didn't they?
No, League One.
Well, it was Premiership, League One, League
Yeah.
Two, wasn't it?
So yeah, it is doable, but again, we're sidetracking again, Braids, and Luton aren't a part of what we're talking about. Spurs, Burnley.
I'm going with Spurs because I just think Thomas Frank's going to turn them into a different type of animal. I just think they're going to be more attacking. There's not going to be all this pussyfooting round. I mean, I think Postecoglou, I think he did well for him. League form, no.
Well, most definitely no, mate. Definitely no.
Europe, they managed to get through to the final and beat United for it to get Champions League. I think first game they'll have it, and then I think they may, depending on the players that he brings in. I think with the Champions League as well, I think they may struggle through the season, but I think they'll be challenging for Europe again. But first game of the season, I think Spurs will have it.
Do you feel like Thomas Franks could scupper Man United's move in Bomo and try and pull him?
Yeah, apparently it already is.
Well,
apparently Tottenham have already made contact with Mbomo's representatives, and apparently his head's already, even though he was saying, yeah, I want to go to United, I want to play for United. Soon as Thomas Frank went to Tottenham, I actually said to somebody, I said, I guarantee they go for Mbomo.
Yeah, well, yeah.
Next day, it's touted for it. Apparently his head's turned now, and apparently United might be possibly looking to move away for somebody else.
I kind of see it as like.
The thing is, Tottenham now as well have got the Champions League football to
they got that pull
dangle in front of him and other players that they want to bring in.
It's the pull, isn't it?
I mean, yeah. I mean, United back in the day, players wanted to go there because it was United. They were the biggest team.
Still are. I mean, they still get players. Mateus Cunha went there. We all knew that was happening anyway. A lot of money for 62 million, but that was his release clause.
Yeah.
And they still pull United. They still pull good players in. Well, not maybe in the last couple of years because they've overspent on money from players that aren't necessarily United standards. Not from like when it was the 90s to the 2000s. Alex Ferguson would never be making no signings, but they have, and they are where they are. I do feel like if Bryan Mbeumo wants to go, it could end up Tottenham. It could, or you might like that the United way. Again, it's an interesting thing where we're going to see players going to see where they want to pull towards. Do you want to go to United because it's Man United and the glitz and glamour? Maybe not so in the football and the position of last season, but that's gone now. With a fresh season, new start. Amarin's got a summer to get players that he wants in. So it possibly, that could be. It's a major pull. But as you say, Champions League again. It's what every player wants to be in.
Yeah. I just think it's going to be. It's all down to transfers, but Burnley, I think they're going to give teams a game this season. But yeah, I just think Tottenham, Thomas Frank's first home game in the
Well, he's going
league,
to want to win it, isn't he?
depending on who they bring in, I can't see past Tottenham for that
No,
one.
and I
Just like I can't see past the next one, City Wolves. I can't see past City.
Rodri obviously would be back. I imagine so. He'd be fit enough to play. I'd imagine
Yeah.
he'll get obviously game time in the playoffs. I don't think they're in the. Are they in the FIFA World Club? I haven't watched any. I've not really paid attention to it because to me, that cup's it's ridiculous. Yeah,
Pointless.
there's all the many.
They're the reason why they put. It's the reason why there was 10 days in between the first transfer window and the second one. Why?
So they could get players in.
Not our problem. Their teams are being put into it.
I just think, give these players a bloody rest.
Yeah. It's pointless. I mean, you look at the other night, Bayern Munich, 10-0 against a team that have people who are semi-professional.
Couldn't get.
What is the point?
Well, one of my mates said that I don't know if he was taking a piss, but he said that some of them couldn't get the time off to play the game.
They couldn't. One guy apparently had to pretend he was off sick.
Telly, so he's not gonna. He's not gonna pull that one off, is he? Oh, sorry, I was ill, but here I'm playing against Man City. Yeah, but there's dreams for these players. These are semi-pro people like you and I. Obviously, we're not semi-pro because we're nowhere near good enough for that. But they are like you and I. We work in a day-to-day normal job, and you get this chance to play against Man City in a competition against their first team or whatever they brought with them, and you're not going to miss out on that, are you? It's once in a lifetime sort of thing. Especially for certain players that are there for Auckland. But it's a money grab, and I'm not into the money grab.
Yeah, I mean, something like a game like that, they could have just done as a friendly. Not in a so-called tournament where you know who are going to be in the final stages of it. Why put a team like Auckland in it? Not taking anything away from them. Never heard of them before, but you're putting them up against the likes of Bayern Munich, Man City, Chelsea, and all these other big teams from around the world. Real Madrid. They're not going to stand a chance.
I think it's is Al Hilal against Real Madrid tonight, or maybe they're playing them at some point. I did see it on Sky Sports.
Yeah, because if Ronaldo had moved to Al Hilal, then it would have been his first game for him against Real Madrid. But they turned around and said no.
Oh. Yeah, you know what? Saudi's interesting stuff with Saudi. But, as Stuart said last week, a lot of players are starting to say no to Saudi now. So,
yeah,
Duran's.
It hasn't got the pull that it used to have, but it did the past couple of seasons.
It's the money.
Yeah, the glitz and glamour of it's gone. Same as the Chinese league.
Well, I don't think you're going to see the money disappear in Saudi comparison to China.
No,
but you're seeing with Duran, aren't you, that he's not enjoying himself since he left?
No, and apparently there's Premiership teams that are looking to bring him back in teams in Europe.
But good for him. I think he should get back because he's too young and he's too talented to be playing in Saudi. You know what I mean? If he's old, like a Benzema when he went there, and I think he hated it when he went there anyway. But go for the money for your last bit of, your career for your family. That's fair enough. Don't go now. Stay in Europe. Stay in the Premier League. Stay where you will be appreciated for what for your talent. I'm not saying people in Saudi don't, but we are as Europe are a football nation. and your guys are there.
Well, I mean, you look at the MLS. The MLS gets more views worldwide than the Saudi league does. Not just because of Messi, but because it's a better league. It's a better run
Well, they're
league.
changing it now as well. Don't forget, and they are
Yeah,
relegations and stuff.
Yeah, but you look at the glitz and glamour of Saudi. You look at the MLS, and you've got players like Suarez going there, Messi going there. I mean, not taking it away from the MLS, it's always been a league that's always been about. But when David Beckham went there, he sort of put it more into the
Yeah, he changed the
forefront
mold.
of people
Yeah, he
looking
did.
at it. And Ronaldo thought he could do that with the Saudi league. Nobody cares. Nobody cared.
No one can quite market themselves any better than David Beckham, though.
Yeah. But I'm with Stewie. I'm just glad that players refuse turning their backs to the Saudi league now, apart from Osman, who have the Saudi league turn their back on him because of how much he wants in
But
wage.
he's a player there.
But these younger players, that are being offered stupid money to go and play there, and they're just literally turning around and saying,
Well,
no.
Bruno Fernandes is the one, if you're going to go there recently, that said no. But let's move on, and then we can get to transfers, and we can talk about this. So we'll go Chelsea Palace. And where do you feel? Okay. It's a quick one, but yeah, that's fine. And then you've got probably the biggest game of the weekend. And I feel like this could be a quite open game. Depending obviously what Amarin gets in the summer, and if he gets the players he wants, and United, they do start to go the way he wants it to. I'm still yet to be pulled by Amarin in the Premier League. I know he's great in sporting, but Portugal league comparison to the Premier League, and like I say, that's any league, any manager from any league. It's such a difficult league to come into, not because it's English or UK, and it's not because we're from the UK. It is generally the most hardest league to play in. So this full season, we'll see. If he can come out on top, or he'll shit the bed, basically. So I'm going to go to you, Man United or Arsenal. And I'm going to break this with Sesko.
Arsenal.
Okay, and that's fine. And then obviously,
I just think Arsenal. If Arsenal go and get an actual striker, like Vasco or Gyökeres is being touted to possibly go in there. I think if they get an out-and-out striker, I think you're going to see a different type of Arsenal next season. Because they'll have that target man. They'll have that player that'll go and get them 20-plus goals a season. And I think they'll have that little bit that could either push them over the line or get them a lot closer.
Well, it couldn't be any closer
to the line.
Go, Brady. But yeah, no, I agree. Arsenal's missing component is the striker. They've got pretty much most positions covered. I know, obviously, they still want a good centre midfield pairing with Rice, and I know they're trying to keep Parsi, but I think they want him as a second. And they bring in the lad from Real. I think it's Real Sociedad. I'm not going to kill him because I can't not kill him personally, but his name. So I'm not going to even go there with that.
Mm-hmm.
But everyone who supports Arsenal or in the know with transfers will know who I mean. And then I'll do a quick fire here, Braids. 10 minutes to go. So Villa, Newcastle.
Draw.
1-1, 2-2.
Probably say 1-1. I'd love to say Villa win at home. We had a good home rating last season. I think if we carry that on, but I think 1-1 draw this one.
And then I'm not going to say it, so I'm going to leave you with the scoreline for Leeds and Everton. And don't say, you can say what you want. You're not going to upset me either way, like.
2-1 Everton.
It's yeah. Well, we'll see. We'll see. It's a difficult.
No, I just
place
think
to go.
if he keeps the players that he wants to keep, brings players in, like you said, you haven't got to worry about PSR this season. You've got a lot of players coming back from injury. I think he'll get his blueprint stamped in fully with the players that he wants. We all know David Moyes is a very good manager. I mean, you look at what he did last season when he went back to you lot. I just think you're going to push on, and I think you'll get the first win of the season, first game.
I wouldn't say no to it, but like I said, Leeds are a different proposition at home, and especially it's their first game back in the Premier League. But obviously, we'll see that on Monday night in August when that game happens. And now, Braids, just like how Sky Sports do it, get your yellow tie on, mate. So obviously, gossip's a gossip. I'm going to go straight to from what I've read, and I've been obviously monitoring it today. And Sky Sports have all come out and said Sesko has agreed to go to Arsenal. He's another one.
Yeah.
Obviously, when we were talking about Saudi, was offered to go to Saudi, and obviously said no. I'm going. Obviously, he's coming to the Premier League. He wants to come to Arsenal. He doesn't want to go. Don't forget, he's another young lad, and he's younger than Duran. You know, it's great to see that he's turned that down. He's turned the money down because he obviously would have been paid more in Saudi. But he wants to come to the Premier League. He wants to play for Arsenal. He wants to show people on the centre stage in Europe as a whole, in the world, how good he is.
Yeah. I mean, I think if he does, and I think he will, go to Arsenal, I think, one, that's a hell of a signing for him. And two, that gives him the player that they're missing. Because, like I said, he's a young lad, but he's got so much talent and
He's
potential.
a big lad, you know, he's not a small person. And again, as you say, he's a young lad, and he's done fairly well at Leipzig. I wouldn't say he's set the world on fire, but he's still young. He's in his early 20s. Is Sesko, and I think he's the right profile for Mikel Arteta. The guy that can obviously hold the ball up as well. And I think all strikers need to be a bit versatile sometimes, don't they? If you're a big man, get that ball down. Everyone can get ahead of you, and then you move on with the play. And most importantly, he can score goals. And you haven't got Moreno up front. And actually, to be fair, he did quite well for Arsenal when he played up front last season. But getting a player in at his age for the price he's going to go for, and I think it's going to be, I'm hearing around 69 million or something along those lines, which I could be wrong, but if that is the case, that's extremely cheap for a striker of his quality, and obviously the potential in Sesko going forward in his future years. But for Arsenal, and we said this before, Braids, it's the missing piece of their puzzle.
Yeah, massively. I mean, like you said, he didn't light the world on fire at Leipzig, but he's got the potential.
More than that, I'd say, mate.
To light. Yeah. I think if he hits the ground running, which the German league isn't massively different in physicality to the Premiership. Where if he was coming from Spain, I'd be more like, it's going to take him a while to settle in. But I think he knows the physicality of the German league, which isn't too much different to the Premiership. So I think he'll settle in quick and he'll bang goals in for him.
And that's great. And then that moves me on to other things that, because it's been quite a slow day today. Obviously, we've got Fer Lopez undergoing a medical at Wolves on Celta Vigo. Very good player. He'll fit the mould with Wolves. He's a young lad, and as Football Manager would tout him, Braids. They call it a wonder kid, if you remember rightly, and that's where I'd have Fer Lopez from Celta Vigo going to Wolves. I think it's around 18, 19 million is spending for him, which obviously they've got money.
Yeah, from what I saw, yeah.
So they you know, what I mean, they've seen players, Wolves who haven't had a great season, still managing to pull players in, just as good. And I feel like they always seem to find the little hidden gems now and again. Obviously, Andre, who I've known quite well, because I've obviously spent a lot of time scouting through Brazilian football teams and their players, that he was always going to be a great player under the right manager, obviously. I'm still not a big fan of Victor Pereira, but that's probably because all that crap he said when he was trying to become our manager, when he went on Sky Sports News to try and sell himself, which is extremely odd. But anyway, I digress to that. Obviously, you've had Joan Garcia, who has gone to Barca from Arsenal, a young lad. And reading here, Braids, 24 years old. So, Arsenal have all these young lads coming, through, but obviously don't push them out. And you've seen that with Martinez when he went to you. But 21 million he's gone for. 20.
And apparently he's going straight in as their first choice keeper.
Yeah, because there's a lot of stuff going on with Ten Hag, not Ten Hag, Ter Stegen, isn't it, over there? He wants to be played. He doesn't want a pay cut, which is fair enough. Like, they owe a lot of players a bit of money to Barca. It's a difficult one, isn't it? I've supported and followed. Well, I was there supported, but I followed Barcelona since the early 90s, in the days when Romario was there, and Stoichkov and Koeman, and I followed it all the way through to Patrick Kluivert. And they've always had class players, and we know about Messi, so we have to have a conversation about that because we know how good he was and what he did for Barca. Xavi, Iniesta, Puyol. They've had standouts, but for a team that's been so disarray with financially, it's hard to sell so much just to get a player through the door, and then sell some more just to meet in line with the Spanish FA's criteria, registering a player. It's insane. Yeah. Most teams that are going through what Barca at the moment would probably have gone under.
But Barca still have a lot of money coming in because they've got, I think, is it the third highest kit sale out of any team in the world in any type of sport? I think it is.
Maybe so. When Messi was there, I wouldn't say so now.
I don't know, with some of the young players that they've got there now.
Jamal, haven't they? Obviously, he was world class.
Ridiculous.
I know, but they churned them out. But, Barca have always had a good academy, and they always churned out absolute gems. And sometimes they hit, and sometimes they miss. But most of them that do miss at Barca actually go on to have decent careers elsewhere. But Jamal's just it's something else. It's like, I'm not going to say he's like Rooney, but it's like when me and Stu first saw Wayne Rooney, and the hope and the excitement when he was a young lad coming through the ranks at Everton. Obviously, Jamal's much better than Wayne Rooney in the sense of he's got it all.
Yeah,
and yeah, it's like he's fantastic. And again, it'd be interesting to see how he gets on in the La Liga and the Champions League come this this season.
I don't think he'll struggle at all.
No, I feel like injuries.
I literally think our lad's just
If he
going
can
to.
stay away from it, like a major injury, I feel like Yamal
Yeah.
will be fine. I always worry for these young kids because they go ham, don't they, in the early years, and then injuries happen, and then things change, don't they, for the player after maybe a certain injury. I'm not saying they've got bloody athlete's foot. I mean, like an ACL, something that can derail a player. Quite consistent, quite what's the word I'm looking for? Quite decisively. And they changed him as
Yeah. I mean, you look at somebody close to home for yourself and for Stewie, Calvert-Lewin. Calvert-Lewin for you lot, when he first came in and for a few seasons, the leap that lad had on him for headers and things, nobody could match him. But then I think business deals and injuries, and I don't know whether he just sort of switched off from football or wasn't looking after himself as well, or if it was just niggling injuries. But I think things like that can I mean, it's derailed his career, really,
yeah, I wouldn't.
the past few
Yeah,
seasons.
Daesh got him going, and I think to be fair to Daesh, he did have him playing a lot of games, and he does look after himself. The guy books himself into places in Germany on his own dime to to fix all the problems. Well, try and fix what problems they are. I feel like with him is he put a lot of weight on muscle mass, obviously, and I think it just caused a lot of problems for him and for his body. He doesn't run as half as much as he used to, like when he was starting out at Everton. And don't forget, before his injuries, he was playing 30+ games a season. It's just one of them with Calvert-Lewin. I just feel like we've had the better experiment now. And I said this to Jim Keoghan, who I had on a few weeks ago, and we both agreed that the better experiment has worked. And we don't miss Calvert.
With the style of play that Moyes has brought back into the club, I think that suited Beto a hell of a lot more than what Dyche's style of play
was
did.
terrific. Less said about that. I don't need no memories more of that. But good luck to Calvert-Lewin. I mean, he scored that goal against Palace. That me and Stu were there at Goodison Park to make it 3-2 to save us.
Yeah.
He was fantastic under Carlo Ancelotti, and who wouldn't be, because he's one of the best managers ever. He had that purple patch there with him, and just hasn't kicked on. Maybe him leaving Everton and going elsewhere, whatever that may be, if it's still in England or he goes elsewhere in Europe. And I hope he finds himself and he gets better. And he plays more games, scores some goals, get back in that England team. I'll be happy for him, but it's just not for Everton anymore.
No.
But as transfers go, we've had a quiet one. So Sesko would be this Sancho, they said he apparently would take a pay cut to go join Napoli. Other than that, we haven't really had a push these last couple of days. Obviously, there's Everton news, but it's not transfer related. We've taken Nick Cox from Man United. He's the academy director, and he's going to be our technical director.
I saw that this morning.
Very good for us because he's been involved. In with a lot of the youngsters and getting them up there. But he's not the only person we're taking from Manchester. We're taking someone from Man City as well. But he's obviously, but they've been Everton before, so under David Moyes. So
I mean, this is what the pull you've got now. because it's fresh, isn't it? You've cleared everything out. You're starting fresh, and the freaking group can bring in the people they want that they think can improve the running of the club, the day-to-day stuff, so that they can just sit back and watch the club grow.
Yeah, well, Kinnear's there, isn't he?
Because,
Which is an interesting one.
yeah,
That we took him from Leeds, and then obviously we're playing Leeds the first game of the season. But they were quite happy for Kinnear to go. So far, he said the right things, and you know, a lot of people in his job or in football do say the right things. Doesn't necessarily mean they do the right things. I can say that about
yeah,
you know, Marshall Brands was a big deal. Come over to us and was dreadful. But you know, hopefully that goes well. But enough about Everton, because we haven't made any signings, and you know, getting the backroom staff sorted is at this very point in time, you know, what we need. But I don't see Everton signing anyone else till at least July. Once that new fresh
no.
PSR, you know, flips over for the following season. You know, we don't have the money like Liverpool and Man City, even though we have the owners that could. But obviously, you won't see Everton be spending big, not for a very long time, unless maybe I'd say Branthwaite goes, which I hope not. And I'll say this, and I'll touch wood, because you know, we can't afford to be losing someone like Jared Branthwaite, and it'd have to be a big money for him to go. But again, Everton, we're doing all the things that we need to do, you know, this month, last month, just to get everything sorted. I feel like we've got the players in place or on a list at least, you know, that we want. Obviously, we've been hearing about Kyle Walker last couple of days, and it's kept going and going. Would I be happy?
Yeah, I saw that. I thought that was a bit of a strange one because I don't think. I mean, Kyle Walker will still do a job for you,
Yeah.
but why only take him for a season? You don't want players that are just there for a
I think
season.
it's just cover. I just think.
Yeah, I mean the rebuild that you're going to need to do, really, he's going to want to bring players in that are going to be there for at least 3, maybe 4 years. He's not going to want to go out and get a 30-year-old right back when he could go out and get a 20-year-old right back who's got the potential to be as good as Kyle Walker for cheaper.
But Kyle Walker, you got to look at it in some ways. Kyle Walker can cover 2 positions as well, and it doesn't necessarily mean
Yeah,
that you know, he would be number one. I still.
yeah. I mean, at the moment, you're going to see every man and his dog
Oh, really?
touted to go
Yeah.
into to
Oh, yeah.
Everton and
Jack
to
Grealish
Villa,
and
and
all that, like, and
I mean, it's like the whole Martinez thing as well. He's never once said he wants to leave Villa.
but
His wife has actually been on an interview on the radio last week, I think it was, and she said he's just a really emotional guy. He was crying because of what Villa have done in the season.
maybe the
Not that
mistake
it's his
in
last
the game as
home
well.
game.
Brady
And,
probably didn't.
yeah, and where they're getting all this information from that if we do sell him, he's going to go for 20, 25 million. When have you ever heard of a World Cup winning goalkeeper who's won the Golden Glove twice going for 20 million? And people say, oh, well, he's 32. For some goalkeepers, that's their
Well,
prime.
most goalkeepers are in their prime from the 30s onwards, aren't they? So, you know, so
yeah. So until he turns around and says, I want to leave Villa, I mean, you see it all over TikTok, all over
yeah,
other
that's the way
social
it is,
media, and it's like, where are you getting this
But people
information
make
from?
bullshit up, don't they? They make
Literally.
bullshit up. And
Yeah.
the thing is, what it's done is doing what it wants to do, and it's doing what it's doing to you right now.
No, because you know me, I don't listen to anything until I see that player say, I want to
Or wearing
leave,
another t-shirt.
or that player holding a Villa shirt, I don't listen to anything. I mean, there's the whole thing about Grealish possibly coming back. You know me, I'd love Grealish back at the club. He's Villa through and through. I think the way he is with any football fan, young kids, he's brilliant with anyone. Yeah, he gets a lot of bad press because he's a lad's lad. He should have
Well, he
been,
likes to pop, doesn't he?
for how he was outside of football, he should have been in the 90s. But I just think for what he did for Villa,
Yeah, I get it.
I'd love him back at the club. But until he actually turns around and says, I've signed for Villa and is holding a Villa shirt, I'm not going to listen to it.
That's fair enough. Like, I like I said, it's certain people in the press, like Ornstein or Paul Joyce, people like that, when they say it's a go, you know what I mean? You know it's a go because they're in the know. I'm not trying to rhyme here, by the way.
Yeah.
But there are certain people that do know things. Not the ITKs that are on Twitter that will say, Cristiano Ronaldo signing for fucking Everton for 100 grand a week, and believe me, you see some weird shit like that on social media.
Yeah. I mean, the only ones I actually follow are Ornstein and
Your Fabrizio Romano.
Here we go. Yeah, they're the only ones that because they're the only ones that actually get it right, that actually know their stuff because they've got the links. They know the people who know what's going on.
Yeah.
So until neither of them have said that Grealish is going to Villa or Grealish is going to Everton or talks have been held with representatives, and neither of them have said Martinez has had talks with so-and-so or so-and-so's had talks with Martinez's representatives. And they're the ones that have turned around and said that Mbeumo's head's been changed by Tottenham because of Thomas Frank going there.
Easy, but it's an easy clickable thing to say that, though, isn't it? Do you know what I mean? Because Thomas Frank's gone to Tottenham. But anyway, we'll leave it there. Thanks for coming on, Braids. I mean, obviously, you're always available mostly for Stuart when I'm either in work or I've got other things to do at the time that we need to do the show. But I appreciate you coming on. I feel like me and you are probably going to become a regular thing over this next, we say, 20 odd days of the window, where we'll probably pop up every week and we'll discuss transfers and it'll give time for Football Down and Now to do other things with Stu, with his guests, or me and Stu do some nostalgia, but we're keeping up with the transfer window because I know obviously a lot of people want to know what's going on. I know we haven't really spoke about it today, but I feel like the Premier League fixtures are the main topic because obviously they've just been released. Well, not now, but this morning, and I feel like me and Brady will probably be back next week, probably the same time, and hopefully we'll have some other things to break, and maybe something will break when we're on live, and then we can talk about that, which that'll be great. But anyway, cheers, Brady. Stu's back tomorrow. He's got a guest, and I don't know his name, and it's George actually. Yeah, sorry. I've been focusing on today. But yeah, Stu's back tomorrow, and then me and Stu will probably be back together at some point next week. If not, I assume me and Brady will be back this time next week, and we'll discuss some more transfers if there's anything to talk. Otherwise, we'll just talk rubbish like we've done today. Many thanks, Braids, and we'll see you all next week. Stu will see you tomorrow. And if it plays, it plays. And if it doesn't, it doesn't.
Football then and now, a fun look at football nostalgia and the modern game intertwined. Join us.